circle. So if we talked about circumference yesterday and some today, being like the distance around the circle, area would be what? If you were to define what area of a circle is really measuring, Liam? Yeah, it's going to focus on the inside. You know, space taken up. These are notes. We put these down. We copy these. This is what I put them on the board for. Okay. With the intention, with the goal of having you understand better. Okay, that's why I put them down. Now, yesterday, I told you that circumference of a circle is equal to pi d. Remember that? I said, all right, in English, what does that really mean? 3.14 times d. And that's the one we went with. That's the one you used on 7, 8, and 9. That's the one you went through on 10, 11, 12. The 3.14 times d. Now today, area of a circle is pi r squared. And if we want to put this into something that's a little easier to understand, any suggestions? Well, we know that pi is what? Times r some people might not understand. Yeah, square, what does squared mean? R times what? What? R times R. Not R times 2. The only time you multiply R times 2 is if R is 2. So this is the one we want to really focus on for today. Means the same thing as that, just spells it out for us a little bit differently. 3.14 times R times R. Everyone had 4-9 in front of them. Flip it over to 11-3, the worksheet 11-3. So if we were going to come up with some steps for this one, finding D wouldn't necessarily be my first step because I'm not using D, am I? I want to find R. Step 2, once I found R, would be to plug it into this equation. R times R, 3.14 times R times R. Step 3, what was step 3 with circumference? Yes? Right, so we're going to round for step 3, but in this case, we're going to round to the nearest 10th place. And step 4, which is very similar to the circumference one, step 4 on the circumference was label. The only thing that's going to be different about the labels here, since I'm working with area, is what? Yeah, it's going to be squared. Okay, so a little bit more to keep track of today. The R times R is definitely a little bit more challenging than just 3.14 times D. But that's why I'm allowing you to use the calculators today to bypass the difficult multiplication work and just focus on plugging the information into the formula rounding how you're supposed to, and labeling how you're supposed to. Because it's a lot to take in at once. So we're going to kind of let you ease into it a little bit. Yes, ma'am. This here is the formula. Now, what do you know about the order in which you have to multiply? Is there an order in which you have to multiply if all you're doing is multiply? Is 4 times 2 the same as 2 times 4? Sure. However you decide works best for you to multiply those, go for it. If you're more comfortable with doing r times r, seeing what you get, taking that and multiplying it by 3.14, great. If you want to take 3.14, multiply it by what you found as r, and multiply it by r again, fine. But what you're going to notice today, and one of the reasons I don't particularly like calculators, I mean, how many times, it's January, how many times have I given you a calculator in class? Okay, so why I very rarely use them is because we get this in our hands and we automatically think that it's going to do no wrong. We still have to put everything in the right place, go through the proper steps. This just does the computation for us. It doesn't solve the problem if we don't put in the right information. So let's take a look at number 1 on 11-3. And the circle looks like this with a 5 centimeters, okay? That's number 1. This is what number 1 looks like. And we will go through the steps, and we will say, step number 1 is find r. What is r? 5 centimeters. So number 2, here's what we're going to do, Alexis. We're going to plug that 5 for r. R times r. And sometimes you will be lucky enough, as you take a look at what you have, is there any of this work that can be done in your head where you don't necessarily need a calculator? Desi, what is 5 times 5? So if you notice that right away, and you want to just go ahead and say 3.14 times 25, you did this multiplication. You did that. You took care of that. So to answer your question from before, Alexis, yeah, if you see that it's beneficial to you to go r times r and take it to 3.14, go for it. Okay? So what is it that we get when we take 3.14 times 25? Without rounding. Don't round yet. Let's put it up here and then we'll round it. What do you got, Larissa? It's just 78.5? Okay. Probably would be 78.50 because the 2 decimal places, but in your calculator it just registers 78.5 because you don't necessarily need a 0. Is there any round? Here's my 10th place. Is there anything behind it that I need to round to? So therefore, step 4 is 78.5 centimeters squared. And there it is. Now, I think it's still a good idea, even though you'd have a calculator in your hands, to set up your little checklist, your little inventory of what comes next. How many of you used that for 7, 8, 9 on your assignment for today? It helps. It helps to see it. Yes? Right, so if they say round to the nearest 10th, what we do is we underline the 10th place, we look at the one after it and say, like if this were an 8, it would change that 5, wouldn't it? Change it to a 6. But since there's nothing there, nothing to round to. 79 would be if I was rounding to this place. Is this place the 10th? That's the what? Think, don't just listen to what comes out. What place is this? Right next to the decimal. Ones. If they were to ask you to round to the nearest 1 or round to the nearest unit, then you would round to that spot. But you're not. You're round to the nearest 10. When they say 10, what they mean is you shouldn't have as a final answer anything further than the 10th in your answer. Now, sometimes you might not even have a 10th place, but you're not going to have anything further. You're not going to have back here. Eli. This means squared. Yep, because, Eli, you've got this in your notes, right? Right? That's why we put it in there, so you don't forget it. Okay? Try number 2, all by yourself. Step 1, find R. Did they give us R, Liam? They kind of do, but they don't. We have to find it. 12. Okay? So the opposite of what you had to do for today, when you were looking for D and they gave you R, you had to multiply by 2. Now if you're looking for R and they give you D, you have to divide by 2. Cut it in half. So it's 12. So step 2, 3.14 times R times R. Okay, some of you may recognize right away 12 times 12 is 144. If you don't, fine. Your calculator will take care of that. Anyway, what do we get for an answer for step 3? And then we'll round it. Zay? No. 0.16. That's what we get first of all. Then Zay, I underline my 10th place. I look behind it. That 6, is that big enough to change that 1 to a 2? So step 4 is 452.2 feet squared. How many got 452.2 feet squared? Okay. If you didn't get it, where did you miss? What happened? Casper, what happened? So you didn't find R, you found D. You found the circumference, or maybe more than that if you went D times. Did you go D times D, 24 times 24? Make sure you're identifying the right thing, because that's going to be the difference between getting it and not. Eli.
I got 37.70
What did you do wrong?
I didn't do 12.
Oh, you didn't do by the other 12.
Yeah,
Okay. Try number 3. Step 1. Find R. Yes. 15. Okay. So step 2, 3.14 times 15 times 15. 15 times 15 is not 30. Okay, so don't make that mistake. A lot of people go ahead and they make that mistake even with the calculator in front of them. Plug in the numbers. You can't go wrong. So before I round for step 3, what did I get when I just put this in? That's 706.5. That was it. So there was no 100th place. So final answer, 706.5 inches squared. Very good. Okay. Try number 4. Okay, find R. Zay. 2. So 3.14 times 2 times 2. 3.14 times 4 gives us what before we round, Larissa? Right, before we round, 12.56. Identify our 10th place, look after it, makes this a 12.6 miles squared. No, the interesting thing, on a circle like this, what's the difference between the area and the circumference? Area, what do we do? Essentially, we went 3.14 times, didn't we? 3.14 times 4. Circumference says 3.14 times d. If this is r, what's d? So what do you notice about a circle like this? Its area is the same as its A is the same as its C. Area is the same as its circumference. The area that it takes up is the same as the distance around. Not 100% the same, because one deals with miles, just regular miles. The other one deals with square miles, right? So definitely still way more space taken up on the inside, but it's an interesting way that those circles work out, that the measurement at least is the same as far as the digits are concerned. Doesn't necessarily translate to the same thing with circumference and area, but you would get the same 12.6. Let's see, your assignments. Ooh, where does the time go? Five through 9. Worksheet 11-3, 5 through 9. Okay.